As Larry Bird used to say, who's playing for second? This time it pertains to the Central Division. We get into it next on this crossover episode of Locked On Bucks and Locked On Pistons.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the show. My name is Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. And we got Ku from Locked On Pistons to give us the perspective on another Central Division opponent. You can, of course, catch me on the Bucks Radio Network throughout the course of the season. You can find Camille on the Locked On NBA show. And we mentioned we were going to start to take a look at some more teams. We did the Raptors last week. Not a whole lot of Bucks fans were too keen on the Raptors being very high on their chances to finish in front of the Bucks. And I'm assuming it's going to be the same tone here with you, Ku. So we'll get into the Pistons of last year, your thoughts on the offseason, but let's just rip the Band-Aid off here. Who do you think finishes with a better record next season?
Let me just say, Sean likes to go around causing a bunch of ruckus in everyone's fan base. Last year, he was destroying Pistons fans, saying Scotty Barnes was better than Cade, and then the Pistons would finish terrible. All throughout the year, literally in the comment section, it was nonstop. Where's Sean at? Where's Sean at? So then when I recorded with him last week as well, like a week and a half ago, all of them just drilled him for the so he has a habit of doing this. But in regards to who will finish first or ahead of each other in the Central Division,
potentially first, maybe you're ready for some hot takes.
Yeah, no, I'm not there yet. Not quite, not quite there.
No one's throwing the Cavs here.
No. I don't think so. Look, this has been my stance with the Bucks going all the way back to the end of last season. We talked about on the podcast, if the Pistons could avoid anybody, who would you want to avoid if they were to get 6, 4, or 5, whatever in the East? And I said I do not want any parts with the Bucks simply because they have Giannis. And for as long as Giannis Antetokounmpo is on the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to give them their respect. And I do feel like the Pistons have a better roster than the Bucks. I think they have, I like their team more than the Bucks, but I think they obviously have the best player. I think Giannis is the second best player in the world. I think he has argument to still be the best player in the world. And as long as he's on that team, they have an argument to be second in the division. So I think the Pistons and Bucks will be fighting over it. I mean, I cover the Pistons, so I'll say the Pistons. But, it won't shock me at all if the Bucks finish ahead of them. You guys got Giannis, so it's I 100% can see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close in that grouping there. When I think about the Eastern Conference, and I have, 5 tiers in the Eastern Conference, right? That first tier is the championship favorites. I got the Cavs and the Knicks up there. My second tier is my tier if things break right, I could actually see any of these teams making it out of the East. And those 4 teams, I can see them finishing in any order. And it's Orlando, it's Milwaukee, it's Detroit, and it's Atlanta. And these are 4 teams where it's if things break a certain way, I wouldn't be surprised if they were we're actually coming out of the East this year. I think the Pistons do have a good team, which makes those Pistons-Bucks games even more fun, especially after how last year's went down, especially with the Ron Holland foul, the free throws at the end there, and all the drama that came with that. But it's a fun rivalry here, I think, within the division, which NBA doesn't really place a lot of emphasis on division. So to have that feeling with the Pacers and Detroit coming up, that's fun for me. And this is one of those seasons where I think every game against Detroit is going to be tough.
Yeah, I think I agree with you about the rivalries that's been going on. The Pistons and Pacers hate each other, and that's another Central Division matchup that they have multiple times throughout the year, 4 times, obviously. They hate each other, and Pistons fans love watching those games. And then the Bucks, like you mentioned, I feel like Isaiah Stewart hates Giannis, and every single time they go up against each other, they just it's just football players going at each other. So every single matchup is always super fun, whether it's really even the games where I tweeted this out a few weeks ago. The game, I forget what Giannis had in the second half, but after Stu pulled him down from his jersey and Giannis went on to score 50 points, I think, or something, after that, it was just probably the best performance I watched this past year. So it's they always have some good performances and crazy finishes. And Giannis, and watching the Pistons try to figure out a way to stop Giannis with their size is always it's a fun matchup to watch them try to solve.
You didn't mention the Rockets or the Thunder for the rivalries here, because those are the two respective opponents during the highly anticipated Rivals Week schedule that we have. And I know Camille and I talked at length about that storied rivalry between the Bucks and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So stupid. Doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I think any team in the Central would have made more sense than the Thunder.
I would have I understand why they picked the Rockets for the Pistons because of the whole Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham thing, but he's not there no more.
Well, the Thompson twins too.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, I think that as long as AUSAR and Amin are on their respective, the Houston Rockets and the Pistons, they'll continue to get these games. So I get that.
What is it specifically that you think is better about the Pistons roster than the Bucks?
So I don't know how you guys feel about this player, but when the Bucks made this trade for Kyle Kuzma, I said that they basically just destroyed their chances. Like, I'm not big on Kyle Kuzma at all. I don't feel like maybe you guys disagree. I don't feel like from an outside point of view that Kyle Kuzma played very well for the Bucks. I don't think he's a very good fit with the Bucks. I honestly just don't think he's that good of a player anymore. I don't think he ever really was that great of a player to begin with. So, and I feel like he's going to have, at least from the outsider's point of view, I feel like he's going to have a decent sized role in this team. And I don't really like that for the Bucks. In regards to what I have the Pistons, what I like more about the Pistons than the Bucks. So I feel like the Pistons have a higher ceiling because they have so many young guys that are unknowns and are projecting to improve. Like if AUSAR takes another jump, that's another guy I really would like above like a Kyle Kuzma or everyone really outside of Myles Turner. I'm not really a fan of a lot of the guys on. Like I low-key like Ryan Rollins. I like AJ Green a little bit too. But like AUSAR could make a jump. I feel like he would be one of the best players in the Bucks. If Jalen Duren takes a jump, I feel like he'd be one of the best players. If Ron Holland were to take a jump, another two-way guy, I feel like that would be like a lot of the Pistons is just unknown. So it's hard to and we've had this problem all off seasons, where it's kind of hard for me to come out and talk really braggadociously about the Pistons upcoming season because it's all about internal development. And I can't guarantee internal development happens. But with these young guys, with the potential they had and the jump they made this past year, if they continue to improve, I feel like they just have a higher ceiling they can tap into because of that. So that's where I like the most about the Pistons versus the Bucks. I also think the Pistons low-key have a higher ceiling defensively than the Bucks as well. After January 1st, they were 6th, I believe, defensively across the NBA. As long as AUSAR Thompson and Isaiah Stewart are healthy all year, I think they'll be a top 5 defense in the NBA too. So I think they have like an identity they can hang on to. But obviously the Bucks have Giannis. So again, I'm just going to keep saying that. As long as you have Giannis, it can be like checkmate to everything.
And that's a question I have about Detroit too, because the defense is there for sure. And when you look at like who left this offseason, who arrived, and who's supposed to fill these gaps, like Malik Beasley's the big one right there, right? Who knows what the future holds for our old friend in Milwaukee, Malik Beasley, y'all old friend in Detroit.
I don't know if we can say that anymore until we know what happens with the barbershop, Camille.
You're right. You're right. We'll rescind that from the record right there. But my point with Beasley is that he did provide an element to that Pistons team that I thought was much needed, with Cade Cunningham really being like that lead playmaker there. Jaden Ivey going down after 30 games or something like that this year. Yeah. Kind of just having that shoot and being able to space the floor. Tim Hardaway Jr. also did that for you guys. And Schroeder was pretty good too while he was there, but Beasley is the particular one because he's like unconscious shooter. Like, and you need guys like that. Like I saw he was second in the league in 3-pointers, 319. And you guys brought in Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson this offseason, and the two of them last year combined for 306. So it's like the two of them still don't even get at the volume of a Malik Beasley. Do you think the Pistons have enough shooting, secondary creation for them to take a jump? And is that really like something that's going to be on Ivy's shoulders, or is it going to be spread out amongst some of these other guys? And with me saying that, it's probably something we should talk about after the break here.
Yeah. So like Malik Beasley, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because the volume that he was on was crazy. It was I forget the exact number, but I believe it was on the volume to make 300 threes plus on 40% shooting. It's only been like he's one of 4 guys to do it. I believe Anthony Edwards dipped right below it at the end of the year. So I believe it's just him, Steph, and Clay to do it. Yep. So it was a historic shooting season from Malik Beasley. It was crazy. So they definitely need to replace it. If they don't, that is one of the concerns, because the Pistons half-court offense was not that great last season. A lot of it relied upon the insane shot making from Malik Beasley. So if they don't get some of that from Duncan and some of these other guys, that could be a reason they struggle. But it seems like they've talked about a lot that they believe Jaden Ivey can do some of that. We'll see if he can. And Duncan Robinson, while maybe he doesn't get the same type of volume up, he takes the same type of shots, which should help their half-court offense run the same type of actions and have that gravity still within the half-court.
All right, some more stats on the defense for both of these teams. What you brought up about ceiling, I want to get into as well. So we'll dip into that coming up after this. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try and can tell you it lives up to the hype. We've all had issues with underwear, whether it be fit, comfort, or just finding the right style for you. Skims is here to change all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I chose the classic brief and I'm hooked. They're perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you, never losing their shape, and stay in place all day. Whether you're working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear you will ever own. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Mens at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show from the drop-down menu that follows. Again, find your Skims Mens at skims.com. So you mentioned the defense and what Detroit did last year after January 1st. It was actually better than you would recall. That was third on NBA stats and fourth best in the league on cleaning the glass. Now, Bucks were in the middle of the pack after January 1st. Camille and I have gone over this quite a bit, so I don't want to bore our portion of the audience too much, but I do think there is a really big caveat that you have to apply to that on the Bucks side. They were better defensively last year by a wide margin, and really since Doc Rivers arrived, they got better defensively. The questions are on the offensive side, but we both expect the defense to continue to show improvement because, again, it's not to pile on. The Bucks always had issues defensively when Damian Lillard was on the floor. And even though, a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. isn't an all defense caliber player, his gambling paid off when you got Giannis and last year Brook Lopez as your safety nets. And now it's going to be the same with Myles Turner, but he had size to hold up. And that was ultimately where the Bucks got in the most problems, was teams could find Dame. And 2 years ago, teams could say, well, we got our choice of Dame or Malik Beasley that we can attack defensively. And that's where the Bucks ran into problems. So will they be elites defensively? I doubt it. I still think they're going to be a top 10 defense, but I would agree with you that the Pistons have more of a complete defense in the makings there. I think the one interesting thing, and you even acknowledge this yourself, is I think there's a lot of similarities between questions that you have with some of these young guys. Like with the Bucks, they're not as young as the Pistons players, but we still have questions with who is Kevin Porter Jr.
Mhm.
Is he the guy that showed flashes in Houston? Is he the guy that played really well and efficient for the Bucks last year? Is he the guy that by the numbers was one of the worst players in the league with the Clippers prior to coming over there? Even guys like AJ Green, how much growth is in there? Same with Ryan Rollins. So there's questions there, but I just ultimately keep coming back to, well, you made the point yourself. One team has Giannis, so to me, that team has the higher ceiling.
Right. And let me say this. I don't know if you guys know this. Ryan Rollins went to my rival high school, Dakota High School in Michigan. So
did y'all hoop against each other or anything?
No, he graduated 3 years after me. So, but I have a lot of friends that hooped against him. He was at a few pickup runs. I've seen him at pickup runs before years ago, but no, I never got to play against him. He was a few years after me. But it's always cool to see that he's like, obviously in the NBA, it's cool. Yeah, look, man, like as long as Giannis is on the Bucks, like that's always gonna be the caveat. I will say, like, for guys like KPJ and Ryan Rollins and AJ Green, if Kevin Porter Jr. can be more or continue improving or prove that he's more of the guy last year and maybe take even another step, I think that would be great
Yeah.
for the Bucks. I think the Pistons argument would be that they have a lot of their young guys are high tier draft picks that have expectations to be better than, you know, like for example, like an AJ Green. I feel like he kind of is
I think we know what his ceiling is. Yeah.
what he is. I don't really expect him to become much more than that. Maybe he does. That would be great for the Bucks. Right. So, but the Pistons, I feel like they just have more of an unknown because there's so much. They feel like they have such a high ceiling with some of these players because of where they were drafted and coming into the league, what they thought about them as prospects. I feel like it's a little different. I honestly feel like the Bucks are more known than the Pistons. I feel like they have a lot more knowns on their roster to where maybe they could feel even more confident, to be honest, with their floor versus the Pistons' floor is still. You hope that with Cade now reaching into his prime is a little bit more steadied, but I feel like the Pistons have way more of a chance to like fall, you know, and break through their floor than the Bucks. I don't feel like the Bucks have a chance to like. I don't personally think they're going to go into the plan. I don't think there's really any chance they could fall into the plan as long as Giannis is on their team. And they have, you know, Myles Turner, who's a veteran. You know what you're getting from him. You know what you're getting from Gary Trent Jr., Gary Harris. Like, you know what you're getting from these guys. Whereas the Pistons, they lost Malik Beasley, who was a big part of it. They're hoping that Jane Ivey and some of these other guys can replicate some of that. But do they know for sure if he'll be able to? We don't know. If he doesn't, that could really hurt the team. Can AUSAR Thompson take another jump offensively now that he finally has an offseason? If he does, that's great. If he doesn't, you kind of have some of these problems within the half court still as an offense. Like there's just the Pistons have a weaker floor, I think, than the Bucks, to where the Bucks can guarantee, I feel like, they're going to be a top 6 seed.
I think that's a fair point about just the floor argument there too. And I love that you said the Bucks have more names, because we've been saying like nationally, we feel people are looking at the Bucks like, yeah, nothing about this roster says anything worthwhile to us outside of Giannis and Myles Turner. Like many people don't know what AJ Green necessarily is or what Ryan Rollins can do defensively and why the Bucks were so keen on retaining him. Or they look at Kevin Porter Jr. and only think about that Clippers run or his other failed runs in other cities prior to making it here to Milwaukee and what that's looked like. Even someone like Gary Harris, who me nor Justin honestly think is going to get much playing time because we think the Bucks are going to actually skew a little bit younger. Like even Giannis mentioned it in the recent interview that he had of just like, oh, we're kind of young now. Like we're young, and the Bucks around Giannis have never really necessarily been young. Like Giannis has generally been that quote unquote young guy on the
around
team.
Dominant Giannis. MVP.
Yes, dominant
Yeah.
Giannis. Yes, we're not talking about Jason Kidd, Prunty, Bucks, that era. We're talking about Mike Budenholzer and forward. But that's the thing I think is going to be so different for the Bucks is just not having the old legs. Like I'm a Brook Lopez truther. I think Brook Lopez actually got some unfair due last year, but you can't watch the tape and act as if he hasn't lost a step or act as if when he's pulled out to the perimeter, opposing offenses ain't like rubbing their hands together. Like this is the matchup that I wanted. And when you put a Myles Turner in there who's a bit younger, like Justin mentioned, I'm expecting at least a top 10 defense for the Bucks this year because, again, just some younger legs to be able to run and play a different way. Plus, with Point Giannis kind of initiating things, I'm hoping that his gravity can kind of create for the rest of his teammates, which, ironically enough, is very similar to what Cade Cunningham is hoping to do with his gravity in Detroit.
Well, in
Yeah.
this sense, is
Go
it the
ahead.
same for both of us that I feel good about the defense overall? Like, I think we have an expectation of where it's going to be, but what both of these teams do ultimately is going to be determined by, like, is the offense going to be good enough?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. The Pistons have, I think they're going to be a top 5 defense as long as AUSAR Thompson and Isaiah Stewart remain healthy. I think having a bigger point guard in a Cade Cunningham to where you can run lineups to where he is the smallest guy on the floor and he provides his own level of defense as a weak side rim protector and his activity on the glass and his ability to rotate and know where to be. I think that really does a great thing for the Pistons defense. Then obviously, like I mentioned, AUSAR, Isaiah Stewart, even Tobias played his probably one of his best defensive seasons, quite a while for the Pistons this past year. And JB Bickerstaff is getting the most out of all of them defensively. The Pistons' best offense. I mean, this has been a big like civil war type of topic within the community all offseason, because there's a lot of people who say, well, AUSAR has to improve within the half court for them if they want to become a great offense, or AUSAR has to improve offensively because he hurts their offense. Where the numbers actually say the Pistons offense was better with AUSAR on the floor. And it's not because the half court offense gets better. It's because the Pistons' only good offense was when he created steals, got stops, and he got the run in transition. They're second, I think, in points off turnovers, third in like fast break points. And once he came into the starting lineup, their offense jumped to a top 12 offense in the league, I believe. And again, it's not because he's this great half-court player. He does have to make a jump in that area, but their best offense was their defense, and that happened when he was on the floor. So if they can create, and I wrote about this for my Substack, they had the worst half-court offense in the playoffs, if you include any team that played more than 4 games. They have to improve that. You can't be a sustainable playoff threat if you are that bad within the half-court. So, yeah, that is 100% going to be where they have to improve on. They're relying a lot on Jaden Ivey and AUSAR Thompson to save that, and we'll have to just see if they're able to improve to save it.
Yeah, and I mean, we had some similar issues for the Bucks too, which in itself is remarkable that we're talking about a team with Giannis, and last year Giannis and Dame, and the big questions were like, man, is this offense going to figure it out, and is this offense going to be good enough? So I do want to touch on that a little bit more. And then you mentioned one of the polarizing names with the Bucks. We'll reopen that conversation and another name that is out there and get your thoughts on him coming up after this. NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even just jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Well, Ku, you mentioned the name of Kyle Kuzma, which in itself has been a Bucks fan civil war since February and the trade deadline, and really since like January, when that started to pick up steam, that you continued to hear the name of Kyle Kuzma linked to the Bucks. Obviously, it did not work out on the court last year. Neither of us are going to try to tell you otherwise. It did free up money for the Bucks. I mean, if you don't make that move and you're a second apron team and you've got Chris Middleton as an expiring contract, but Dame ruptures his Achilles, you are screwed this summer. There's no way around it. Then I do wonder what the chatter is surrounding Giannis and how much louder that gets. But I still don't know what to expect, obviously, from Kuzma, but really in terms of the role, because we saw what worked for the Bucks, and there was this trying to shoehorn him in to be a big piece and starting, and there was a lot of added value on the defensive side. Offensively, you just think we've seen enough to know you can't have him and Giannis on the floor together. And John Horst continues to point to the small sample size that they believe in that really makes me question how much of a role Kyle Kuzma will have, and if this is really just a rehabilitation season. But let me ask you this, seeing what he provided them last year, would they have been better off to just, in your mind, to say, we mean it, this is the last time. We'll see if Giannis, Chris, and Dame work in the playoffs, even though it had been years of just, you could no longer depend, as two of the biggest stands there are for him. You just couldn't depend on Chris Middleton anymore.
So when the Bucks made the trade, I remember tweeting this out and talking about it a little bit. Again, I'm not following the Bucks every single day, but from an outsider's point of view, my first immediate reaction was they made this because of the money. It was not a basketball reason. It had to be a contract reason because it did free up money. And I know Middleton was on a heavy contract. And again, it gave them a little bit more flexibility. But my initial takeaway was, okay, they're punting on this season. They know that they need to recalibrate in the offseason. They need this money. That was my initial takeaway. I do not believe Kyle Kuzma is a very good basketball player. I'm sure you guys already know these numbers, but obviously the Bucks were better with him off the floor this past year, according to PBP stats. Watching him play is not fun. I don't feel like he doesn't play a fun brand of basketball. I don't feel like he plays a team brand of basketball. If the mentality was to just win, I did feel like that you should just went and believed in Chris Middleton and Dame and Giannis to say, you know what, we'll go down with the ship. If it doesn't happen, it is what it is our best chance. Obviously, you can't see 2 months in the future and see Dame rupturing his Achilles. Like, you can't see that. So obviously, like you mentioned, it did end up playing out well for them in regards to being able to have that flexibility within the offseason and, kind of, be able to do some of these moves. My problem is that, and this kind of gets to like my belief of like the Bucks ceiling is that, they were able to make these, extend or waive and stretch Dame's contract and free up enough cap space to now go after Myles Turner and get some of these other guys. I just feel like that their ceiling is still lower to me with these moves than it would have been if, now again, you don't know at that time that Dame was going to rupture his Achilles. That changes everything. But like, if it just operating within that time, I feel like still their ceiling would have been higher with Giannis, Chris, and Dame, and just hoping Chris stays healthy and they figure it out. Like, that's how, and I understand Bucks fans. I don't know if Bucks fans are agreeing with me. I might be making them mad, but Kyle Kuzma, I just really don't believe he's a very additive player, a plus player. And I also don't believe you can play Giannis and Kyle Kuzma together like that. And in my opinion, if you can't play with the best player on the team, you probably are not that, useful for a team trying to win. So, that's what I believe.
Camille, before you jump in, I mean, to that point, the last one that you made, it didn't appear to work on Damian Lillard's side playing with Giannis. So like, I get the notion that Damian Lillard carries a much higher name value and the ceiling that is now, it's funny how the Bucks ceiling has been lifted now that Damian Lillard is gone retroactively. But at the time we kept hearing, and it was true, it doesn't look right. It doesn't work. Why aren't they running this? Why does this offense look so clunky? That, I don't know. I don't think they would just outright say we were punting the season, to your points, but it does make you question what the motive. Like, they were not, obviously able to say Dame's going to rupture his Achilles and we're going to wave and stretch him. But it did feel like it was very much an eye on the summer. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I do wonder too, if they were looking at, this is also a tradable contract, especially if he plays like the oft mentioned Kyle Kuzma in the bubble with the Lakers version. Like, okay, then we can utilize this and move it if he shows some value here. But I mean, I think it was financial, but it wasn't so much like ducking the tax or anything. It was just, we are handcuffed by the second apron and we absolutely have to get under that.
And the other part of that I would add to is your point about Kuz playing alongside Giannis. When he was traded and we were talking about the move and what it brings to the Bucks, I kept saying there's a lot of hope around Kyle Kuzma, a lot of hoping that things are changing or will break right because he's in a different situation. And there was nothing that I had seen in his statistical categories to give me a lot of encouragement that all of those things were going to be achieved. Like, he's going to become a knockdown 3-point shooter now that he has open shots due to Giannis's gravity. He shot better than he did with Washington, but it still wasn't enough where you were like, man, what a drastic difference in his shot profile here. So I think with Kuzma, like, for this upcoming season, we were thinking that he would actually unlock some Giannis at the 5 lineups, playing him next to him because of the size there, but we didn't even see that often. And now you're hearing a lot more of like, maybe he's just actually a backup 4, a little bit of a 4 here. He's a little bit of a 4. Let's try to get him some of those minutes. So it'll be curious to see what they do with Kuz. But as we get ready to wrap here, I do have one more question for you, Ku, about Detroit, because you mentioned Jaden Ivey and all the pressure that's going to be on him. AUSAR Thompson is another one where we expect to see a jump from him. Who else on the Pistons should people be keeping an eye on, like, especially like Bucks fans? When that matchup comes along, of course, attention is going to be on Cade. It's going to be on Jaden. It's going to be on AUSAR. But, like, who else on the Pistons could be like an X factor that people should keep their eyes on?
Yeah, I think it's Ron Holland. Ron Holland was very impressive this past year for a guy that was considered a very raw prospect, was one of the youngest players in his draft class. He might have been I think he was the second youngest draft class last year. And the expectation going into the season that he would be a consistent rotation player all year for a team that was the 6th seed as a 19-year-old. But he played 81 games for the Pistons this past year for a team that went to the first round or was a top 6 team in the East, pushed the New York Knicks to 6 games. He was a part of that as a raw rookie at 19 years old. And he has legit two-way potential. He's probably right after Cade, in my opinion. I think he's the most natural driver of anybody on the team. He's an incredibly gifted slasher. He's able to finish with both hands. He has incredible touch around the rim. That shows up on the film. Anywhere 5 feet within in the runner area as well. He has incredible touch. He also is a dog defensively. He kind of comes from like this Pat Beverly tree, I would say, like on defense, like where he will get physical with you. He will get into it with you. He is ready to square up at almost any time possible. Like he comes from that. And obviously Pistons fans love that. The thing with Ron is, and he played exceptional in the summer league, I have heard over the offseason that there is interest from the Pistons to want to see AUSAR and Ron eventually start playing some of these minutes together. But in order for that to happen, they need Ron to develop a three-point shot, because you can't play them with Jalen Duren and think you can get away with it. They have to have some kind of shot. So if Ron can shoot closer to what he shot in the summer league, and his shot actually is improved some, I think you will start to see more Ron and AUSAR lineups. And if the Pistons are able to enable those lineups and have two guys who are 6'7" plus, rangy, athletic defenders that also bring it offensively. Ron's more of a scoring archetype. He's not really much of a passer. AUSAR is a playmaker, a processor, kind of sets the table up more offensively and is more versatile, I would say, as an offensive player. I think that would really unlock something for the Pistons. But I said this recently. While I think Ron could have that breakout this year, he is still very young, so I don't want to put the expectation on him. Could be next year. It could be 2 years from now when it happens. But the Pistons are very high on Ron Holland, and if he's able to put it all together this year, I mean, that could be one of the most important players on the Pistons this season.
Got to improve those free throws against the Bucks in the final second of the game
yes.
too. All right,
you might have been a little nervous as a rookie at that point.
Yeah, you could see it. You could see it on him. When he missed that first one, I was like, nope, he ain't got it tonight.
When you were talking about a young, raw, lots of potential forward, and what you saw in terms of growth, I could have sworn you were going towards Tyler Smith there. But we'll do a quick rapid fire here before we wrap things up. I'll throw it to both you and Camille. Ku. We'll start with you, Ku. If I told you one of these two teams has more than one All-Star this season, who would be most likely?
I have to go with the Pistons, man. I just don't. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Pistons.
Camille?
That's a tough one. The cheap answer for me to say Bucks is if the front court options are just thin in the East. So you're kind of like, well, okay, Myles Turner kind of gets in there by hook or by crook. But, man, if Ivy's healthy, I could see it being a Cade Ivy thing. I could see it being an AUSAR K thing. I think for me, I'm going to go Detroit on this one because I think they just have a few more different combinations I could see actually make it than Milwaukee does.
Which team is more likely to finish in the bottom 10 offensively?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Pistons too. Like, again, I feel like that Giannis kind of just raises the floor. I don't feel like the Bucks can, I mean, maybe, but I just don't see how they could be that bad as long as they have Giannis on the floor. So, like, the Pistons, again, if they don't get that shooting replicated some way, whether not just from one player, but from multiple guys, from Malik Beasley, I feel like it could be a little bit of a struggle within the half court again.
Yeah, he said it perfectly.
I agree. Which team's most likely to make a trade deadline, a significant deal at the deadline?
This one is going to be hard for me to answer because I don't have the exact understanding of the Bucks' financial situation. So I don't know if they actually, you guys would obviously be able to correct me here. I don't know how much flexibility they actually have to make a trade.
A decent amount.
They could.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, I think they'll be more aggressive then if they have flexibility. I think the Bucks, as long as Giannis is on the team, they're going to always operate more aggressively as long as they have the capability to do so. So where in the Pistons case, I could see Trajan Langdon, the president of basketball operations, continuing to be safe and just letting the young guys.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee as well for those exact same reasons. And we also know Horst is not afraid to make those moves.
Plus, I don't know if you heard this or not, Camille, but Giannis continues to weigh his options. All we know is he's starting the season with the Bucks. All right, we said there's one other polarizing name out there. So which of these two teams has the better coach?
I want to hear you guys answer first with this one.
I'll plead the fifth on this one.
Yeah, Justin can't answer that question. I'll say this. I think Doc Rivers is the right coach.
Sounds like a non-answer, Camille.
We're gonna try to see how we can do this. Hold on. I think Doc Rivers is a good coach. Well, he was the right coach, especially last year, managing personalities and whatnot. I think that JB kind of got an unfair shake a little bit in Cleveland to a certain degree before going to Detroit. And he's already so much better than what was previously there in Detroit, which was really just for a check. So I'm actually going to go with Detroit with the better coach there. JB just seems like that guy, but I think Doc has a good grasp on like the personality balance of a locker room.
So I'm laughing because I'm also going to go with the Pistons. Cause I really want to know what Justin feels about Doc Rivers because I am not very high on Doc Rivers, and he's probably one of the like if I made a list of like the top 3 concerns I have with the Bucks, I think Doc Rivers would be in my top 3. So I'm gonna go with JB here.
Which team had the better previous coach?
Definitely the coach that actually wanted to show up every day and not just
Milwaukee got that one. Griff got it over mine.
It should be a very interesting year, especially with we came into the season knowing the Cavs are going to be really good. We thought, well, the Pacers are going to be the perceived favorites, and then Tyrese Halliburton's injury and what that caused. That Myles Turner's on the Bucks now. That these two teams are saying, hey, we got a chance to continue to build something here in the case of the Pistons. And can the Bucks get back to where they were? You can find Ku's coverage all throughout the season on Locked On Pistons. We will check in with you again during the season to see how far off we were on any of these takes and analysis that we had. But always good to catch up with you, Ku.
Absolutely, man. Had a lot of fun.
For sure.
That'll do it for today's show. For Camille, for Ku, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow.